Well then, this is suddenly something different for the channel. Yes, it's a far cry from high quality shitpost, peculiar song edits, and a concerning amount of Emma Sky related content. But hey, variety is the spice of life, so bear with me as I experiment with something new. Alright, I know the video's only just started and we're just getting to know each other, but I have a confession. I'm a gamer. Sorry to spring that on you, but I figured it would come out eventually and I thought it would be for the best if I told you myself. Unfortunately, there's more. The fact that you're watching this video means that chances are you're also a gamer. This is probably a lot for you to take in. Feel free to pause the video, it might take some time to come to terms with this development. When you're ready, we'll continue. Alright, good to go? Great! Now I wasn't always a gamer, and the same goes for you. It's a trait we developed, not something we were born with. The question then is, how did we become gamers? How did non-gamers get into gaming? The answer is obvious. One day, they picked up a controller and played a game. But what was it that made them keep playing, and turned them into a gamer? Well, it was the game. So, what games do first-timers play? There's no definitive answer to this question. There are thousands of games out there. Almost everyone's first exposure to gaming will be different. However, there are certain trends in these games that introduce individuals to gaming. Not all games are made for everyone. What separates games that are acknowledged as attractive first-time experiences, such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, from a game that even veteran gamers are reluctant to try, like Touhou, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil? In this video, I'll explore some key aspects that make video games suitable for first-time gamers. It's pretty easy to say our experiences are what make us who we are. The things we've experienced also provide a frame of reference to help us understand fresh unknowns that we encounter and possibly assist us in making the right decisions when required. For gamers, that means we use knowledge acquired from other games and apply them when we play new games. For example, in the 2D sandbox game Terraria, you're never directly told, well, anything. Online guides do exist, but the game itself drops you in a world with nothing else but a set of copper tools and a cryptic guide who shares fun trivial facts rather than any serious guidance about what you need to do to stay alive. Yet, as a gamer, I understand how sandbox games work, and I instinctively start using the tools to terraform the environment and make a home for myself, safe from the zombies. So then, how about these non-gamers? Are they left to struggle their way through? How exactly are they supposed to understand video games when they have little to no experience with them? Well, they might not have experience with video games, but they definitely would have something else. Real life experience. This brings us to the first key idea in what makes a game open to everyone: its connection to aspects of real life. A while back, my cousin came to stay with my family. He lived overseas and had limited exposure to video games that I played. When he saw me playing games like Super Smash Bros. Or Crypto the Necrodancer, he struggled to understand what was going on. However, when he saw me playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, he immediately understood. "Oh, you're camping in the wilderness!" he exclaimed. My cousin had real-life experience going camping and hiking in the wilderness, experiences he was easily able to apply to Breath of the Wild. Of course, I asked him if he'd like to play. Explaining the controls was difficult, but once he got the hang of it, he was quickly able to traverse the plains of Hyrule, no different than how he would hike through a forest in real life. He even impressed me by doing things I hadn't even told him to do, like hunting a wild deer. "How do you know you could do that?" I'd ask. "Well, you told me I could shoot a bow. It only makes sense I could shoot the deer." This is what makes games like Breath of the Wild, as well as games like Stardew Valley, The Sims 4, and Wii Sports, so great for non-gamers, as the concepts they cover are very much related to everyday living. This allows anyone to apply their real-world experiences and successfully navigate and comprehend the virtual world for an entertaining experience. Realism, however, is not the only factor that enables a game to attract the audience. Even though Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege has been praised on its realism, it has also been acknowledged as complex, and therefore extremely inaccessible for new gamers. By contrast, despite Mario's unrealistic feats of jumping from skyscraper to skyscraper, it never baffles the minds of new gamers, contributing to the game's widespread popularity. So, realism by itself is not the core ingredient. This leads us to the next key concept I'd like to discuss: simplicity. A multi-layered consideration of this factor contributes to making a game appealing to the first-time gamer. This should come as no surprise, as such a concept is not unique to video games. With almost any interest, skill, or hobby you're introduced to, you begin at the basics, as simplicity is key to initial mastery, and a reward of success that keeps you engaged. Let's start with what's probably the most apparent and key aspect of simplicity: the gameplay. It might seem obvious to always just be basic. Often a good game for non-gamers focuses on a single concept that's easy to grasp. However, this can make it one-dimensional, repetitive, and inhibit the longevity of play. It's far better to keep introductions simple, but then progressively include a variety of mechanics and features, easing players into more complexity. A game will not be confusing if novice gamers are extended one step at a time and allow the opportunity to fully grasp new concepts. Once again, Breath of the Wild does a great job at this by limiting its vast open world to a single plateau and teaching each of its mythical runes one shrine at a time. The information a player is told during gameplay can be both a blessing and a curse, depending on how well it's structured. On one hand, the more information a player has, the better they'll be able to understand their surroundings and perform. On the other hand, it's a slippery slope, with information overload overwhelming players and extricating the joy of play. Striking a balance is difficult, as player preferences vary significantly. Some like to read the instructions, while others learn hands-on. To help understand this, let's look at a bad example. Here's a UI that has way too much information, that could overwhelm even the keenest data analyst. Just by eliminating everything except the three most important pieces of information, a far better UI can be achieved. But what about all that information from earlier? Some of it may have been useful. This information can be placed separately, allowing players to access it through other means. Or even give them the choice to add what they like to the UI themselves. This type of personalization tailors the game to user preferences and skill, making it more suitable for a new gamer. Another important aspect is the considered use of visual cues. A lot of information does not have to be explicitly told to the player, and can instead be subtly and more creatively given to them through visual cues, enhancing the player's overall experience. Is a clock really necessary when the player can take a look at the dark sky and deduce it's nighttime? This creative alternative not only lessens the information thrusted at the player, but also enables them to think for themselves, drawing the player deeper into the world of the game. Many games seek to tell a story, as a means to engage the player or impart a message, or even a greater lesson. However, like all works of fiction, these stories can become extremely complex and end up confusing and isolating audiences.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
Games for non-gamers benefit from a simple story that is rewarding to follow, but not so complex that you have to resort to creating a flowchart to remember the plot lines. The aim is to make a story that is straightforward to understand, but engaging enough to sustain attention. The tried and true formula of a 3-act narrative structure is therefore a popular choice. Act 1 sets everything up. The characters are introduced. For example, Mario and friends and the princess, as well as the setting, the Mushroom Kingdom. Act 2 introduces the conflict. The princess is captured, and the hero goes through a journey through around 8 different worlds to save her. And finally, the game concludes with Act 3. The princess is rescued and the monster defeated. Maybe adding in an extra world or secret boss fight to keep it interesting. The audience is taken on a journey, but rewarded with clear closure that satisfies the psychological need for the game to be an escape, but not a cause for more stress caused by unresolved narratives. The final point when it comes to games for non-gamers is the level of difficulty. Following the identified philosophy of simplicity, the solution would be to make the game easy. This approach, however, opens up its own problems. Make it too simple, and the game quickly becomes boring. Making a game too hard, however, can result in it seeming impossible, and once again, no fun. Furthermore, introducing a difficulty level in the game doesn't help either, as first-time gamers will have limited experience to choose a difficulty level that fits them, often resulting in a poor decision and untimely departure from gameplay. As such, games with fixed difficulty that all players experience ensures less ambiguity that can confuse a first-timer. Also, difficulty should be designed in such a way that it is primarily accessible to a wider audience, so therefore leaning more towards easy. There should also be opportunity to challenge those who want to be extended, such as boss battles. Steadily increasing the difficulty of a game as it progresses ensures that it is a fair challenge, but not an insurmountable barrier to triumph. So that about wraps it up. Connection to reality, simplicity of gameplay, information and story, and difficulty of the game itself. These are the core aspects of a game that make it accessible to non-gamers. There's one more thing though, something outside of the game itself, that has a monumental impact of getting people into video games. Friendship. Many people simply follow friends and family into a game. So why don't you try asking a non-gamer friend of yours to try playing a game with the characteristics covered in this video, and introduce them into the world of gaming? Oh, wait. You're a gamer. You don't have friends.